All right. Welcome, everybody. We're thrilled to have you here. Today, we're moving past the basics and diving right into how enterprise-grade AI actually functions in the wild. Most of you know Tabnine is an AI coding platform built for teams that refuse to compromise on correctness, security, and control. While generic assistants really often lack boundaries, Tabnine is designed absolutely to operate strictly within your organization's specific context, your code base, your standards, your policies, all while keeping your data fully isolated and secure. Today's journey, we're going to transform your workflow, and we're joined by Pavel Vaks, product manager at Tabnine, who will lead us through a deep dive into this Tabnine CLI for Agentic AI workflows. Today, Pavel is going to walk us through a few things. One, the evolution of AI coding, an introduction to Tabnine and where AI assistance is heading. Then we'll move to the power of the CLI, why the command line interface matters so much for modern development teams. We'll then move to real world deep dive into practical use cases across CI, CD, code review, and documentation. We do want to mention our new context engine, exploring the enterprise context engine and its transformative capabilities. This is going to be really big moving forward. And then do a quick roadmap preview. This is an exclusive look at upcoming governance features, which I think you guys will be really excited about. And then finish off with next steps, exactly how we get started with the Tabnine CLI in your organization. This is really a hands-on first product look at how governed AI can actually accelerate software delivery. So I'm super excited to have Pavel here to walk us through this. Pavel, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so before we jump in to the CLI specifically, I just want to add some more context about Tabnine itself. So while we do have those AI-focused coding assistant that you have experienced with, Tabnine is specifically meant to work with the enterprise needs. What it means in practice is basically we offer enterprise-first deployment options. So it means on-premise, VPCs, air-gapped, other options that ensure that the data never leaves your premise. Second, we're model agnostic, so you're not specifically going to be locked into a single AI model. Your administrators, they will be able to choose whether to use ChatGPT, Anthropic, or other models, even private models, without disrupting the developer workflows. Third, and this is we're going to deep dive on this a little bit later. We have the enterprise context engine. Basically, this allows the AI to deep integrate with your organizational context, with your code base in your organization. So when the coding agent generates code, it actually aligns with the standards, with everything that your organization has. And also, the governance features, which we will also cover in those slides. We have the comprehensive governance. So basically, in enterprise environments, you need to enforce different code quality, code security, and other compliances. And using Tabnine, we will provide those automated controls. And finally, we have already the trust of thousands of users across mid-market and enterprise organizations worldwide. So we do allow this secure, controlled AI adoption. So it's not bad experiments, it's production ready and it works. Okay. So a little bit of history here at Tabnine. We started with having the IDE-bound autocomplete product, but we have shifted a little bit outside of the IDE. So most teams, they do not rely on the IDE anymore, not specifically on the IDE. So large portions of your work is elsewhere. It's not specifically, well, you have your tests that you're usually running in maybe in the CLI. You have your CI/CD pipelines. You have different gates and deployments that are running outside of your IDE. You have web-based tools like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, etc. You have different remote environments. So everything goes outside of the IDE. So the challenge is not getting this AI assistant inside the editor, because once the developer switches outside of the IDE and goes to the terminal or goes to other places, we have the CLI to close this gap. It can run in your own environment. It can run in isolated environments. It can run through SSH connections. And we have a bunch of different ways to use the CLI. And finally, it's not going to be only autocomplete. It's actually an agent that runs and creates code and validates the code in your organization. So few words on the CLI. So the reason we started to invest in the CLI is that it's almost in every part of the software developer lifecycle. And with the CLI, the AI is now available in your Kubernetes pods, in your CI/CD, and in your environments in the cloud and on-premise. So it's command line, so it can fit into your habits already, because I know that a lot of developers, they're running through the CI, and you can take a successful workflow with the agent, say like a repeatable refactor or like a pre-review checks and stuff like that. You capture it as some script in the pipeline, and you will be able to reuse the same workflows in the future. So the CLI provides us great extensibility in those areas. I would treat this as an AI teammate that lives in your terminal. Basically, you can have interactive sessions with the CLI. You can ask, for example, explain how the authentication works here, explain different areas of my code base here. And the agent responds, and it shows you explanations, file references. Sometimes it shows diagrams in the text, and everything is grounded into your actual code. So it can also act on the code. It means that we can implement features, we can design stuff, we can add a specific code and or clean up different modules, propose changes, etc. And finally, it can perform deep searches across those large indexed code bases using the remote code search, which is our context engine. So having those capabilities, it can provide, even when the repo is not fully present locally, you don't have the code in your local machine, we can still provide you with information about the repositories that are attached to your current work. We can provide you with analysis of the blast radius and the effects of your changes in the future. So to keep this useful for different comfort levels, we have two modes for the CLI. First is the interactive mode. Basically, you have the CLI, you can ask questions, the CLI responds, and then you can respond again, and basically have this ping pong between you and the coding agent. And also, we have the autonomous mode. Autonomous mode works in what we call YOLO mode. Basically, you provide it with a request, and it just runs, and you give it a goal, and it just executes it end to end without stopping after every step. It's not asking you for any permissions. It assumes that you are allowed to do everything. Of course, compliant to your organizational restrictions and governance items. I'll do a quick example, a quick explanations of the enterprise context engine. So because the CLI works with the context engine, which is also something that we've worked on, and it's an important layer. This engine, it indexes your repositories. It understands the code in your across the whole organization, code bases, and it can understand different architectures, different documentations, and the agent, it can operate with this broad view instead of just like working on a single file or a single directory or a single repository. You can understand everything that goes into your organization by completing those tasks. So over time, it will also learn your patterns. It will learn how you structure your APIs, how you handle those authentication, what good actually means in your code base, because it runs on your code, it reads your code, it understands your code. So this is a big part of why the CLI and in general the Tabnine agents, it feels like they know your environment and they're not just working on different syntax issues. I'll jump to a few interesting use cases that we can do with the CLI. So first, let's look at the onboarding and navigation. New engineers, they often spend a lot of time asking, like, where do I start? Or they might go to different senior engineers and ask them to help them with different onboarding items. And they basically, it wastes a little bit of their time. It also takes time from the senior developers. So, and the context switching also cost us quite a lot of time. So those new engineers, they can basically come and say, hey, explain how the architecture of our payment services, or they can ask to walk us around through some workflows, and the agent will respond with high-level overview with the key components and with the links and the files that matter. So if the agent needs more details, they can ask you for more directions. They can drill down. You can ask the agent also to drill down, show me sequence of steps, show me this and that. Here we have a very small example. We're going into our payment service and we can explain how our authentication works in a specific file. And the AI will analyze it and it will respond with a conscious response. And then we can also ask for follow-up questions. So the onboarding becomes much easier, and it has a lot of benefits. It reduces those interruptions and the context switches and faster incident response, because when we get those bugs and issues, we can investigate them much faster. And it's not only bound to the developers. Anyone who has access to the code, anyone who has access to the issues, they can use the CLI to investigate those things. Use case number 2. So code reviewing. Basically, because the CLI runs in the terminal, we can bound it into the CI/CD of your organization. We already have a few examples of CI/CD workflows in the CLI, but when the CLI runs in the CI/CD, we can, for example, ask it to review the code. The CLI, it runs a structured analysis on the changes. It should run before even a human eye sees it. So it can look for different security issues, performance, maintainability problems, and also because it has the connection to the remote repositories through the context engine. And it also has the connection to your coaching guidelines in your organization. Coaching guidelines is basically the guidelines of how the code should look and how the code should behave in general guidelines, which is much more stronger than simple linting. The code reviewer basically can analyze your code and understand how the change affects those remote repositories, how the change affects how it stands along with the coaching guidelines, and to provide you feedback on those things even before someone else starts to review your code. So the idea here is that the code that comes to the human review in the end it has already passed through a few iterations with the CI/CD, with the CLI in the CI/CD, and it is much stronger and much better. Third use case, documentation review, getting alerts on different areas in the documentation that have misalignments. So basically, we can ask the CLI to create automatic documentation based on code changes, or create automatic release notes based on the specific commits. And it will do it automatically. We just need to provide the right prompt that will guide it how to do those things. Okay, so documentation is a pretty good use case in those cases. And one of the things that I'm also doing with the documentation, for example, is running the CLI through our documentation and trying to validate that everything that is written in the documentation actually works in real life, because the CLI can also run commands. At this point, I want to jump to a quick demo and show you a little bit of what the capabilities and how we're using the CLI internally here at Tabnine. So I'll show you a quick example. This is my CLI, one of my CLIs. Here we have basically a request that I made for the CLI before this workshop. I found this bug, and I told it that every time our PR agent runs, we get an error. The error is here, that it cannot send analytics to our service. So I wanted to fix it. The first thing I did is just ask the CLI, create a Jira bug to handle those issues. And I have the Atlassian MCP connected, the Rovo MCP, and quite fast, the CLI works and created this amazing bug report with steps to reproduce and the expected result and everything. And our developers are much happier getting these types of examples of Jira issues. Next, I asked the CLI to fix this issue. So the CLI investigated the code, and finally it added this authorization bearer, which was the real problem. It also needed to do a little more work. And we saw that after completing this work, the CLI also created a pull request with a summary and with all of the changes that it actually had. And after waiting a little bit, we also got a code review from another CLI agent that reviewed the code. Now it says it's good to merge. It found different issues, different findings and notes on the code that I wrote. And also it provides with a cross-repository impact. So it actually says what the code that I'm doing right now, how it affects the other repositories in our organization. I'll go back to the slideshow. So basically, this is a nice example of having the CLI in our lives end-to-end. Me, as a product manager, I can create tickets, I can remediate those tickets, and I can also review and I get a code review for the remediation process. And obviously, I will want a human developer to review this code before it is merged into our code base. So this is also part of the flow. Some of the further capabilities that we have here, and we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. So the model-agnostic architecture. Imagine this scenario. You've deployed the AI coding assistant for your 500 developers across your organization. They're all using GPT 5.2. And a few days ago, GPT 5.3 went out. So you want to encourage your developers to start using with GPT 5.3, or for example, your organization decided to shift from OpenAI to Anthropic. So now you want to encourage your developers to switch into Anthropic. So with most AI tools, this would mean reconfiguring like 500 different machines, asking the developers to actually go and change the models in their coding agents. In Tabnine, basically, we have these administrative capabilities where your administrator, they can select they can approve, they can select the LLMs, they can set the sorry, they can set the default models that can be used, and the developers, they do not get interaction. So you can switch your model for your entire organizations in just about like 30 seconds. Maybe it will take you a minute. So there are few key benefits here. First of all, the centralized control. You can make the decisions about your AI models in one place. It's not scattered around like hundreds of your developers' machine. Second, automatic updates. So the CLI, it adjusts to whatever model or your organizations have approved. The developers, they don't really need to think about this. They can, if they want, they can select specific models, but you, as your organizational administrator, will be able to set the defaults and to set something that will provide faster onboarding. And third, cost and performance optimization. So, the AI landscape, it evolves rapidly, and really fast. So you can switch to like different cost-effective models to optimize for specific tasks. For example, let's say code review is a really repeated task that runs on every pull request. Maybe I would like to have a cost-effective model here, whereas when I'm writing my code, I would want to use the more advanced coding agents. So from governance perspective, I think this is quite massive. I mean, your decisions, they can say they stay centralized wherever they belong. So you ensure your developers are using the approved, compliant models. There's no shadow AI that you do not see the flows, and everything is visible to your admins. So basically, using the Tabnine administrative capabilities, you can use either the Tabnine managed models. This is available for our SaaS customers. You can use private LLMs. You can use your own Bedrock or Vertex or other endpoints that provide private LLMs, or you can also provide your own custom model. So you can create a model in your environment that runs on your machines, and to integrate it with Tabnine. Next, our product is built for enterprise security and compliance. So security and compliance are non-negotiable when it comes to enterprise adoption. This is where the CLI comes to meet with the requirements of your highly regulated industries. So in the development options, in the deployment options, you can run Tabnine fully on-premise. You can run it on your VPC deployment. You can run it on air-gapped environments, and everything works seamlessly and the same way between all of the different environments. We have quota management that will allow you to control AI usage and the costs of your organization and the team level. So you can set the limits, you can track the usage, you can prevent runaway costs, and we maintain those audit trails if you request. So we can log the code generation snippets, we can log the request that the developers ask. Obviously, it is all configurable and can be opt-out or opt-in if you would like. So it's not theoretical. Those capabilities, they already exist, and they meet requirements of organizations in finance, healthcare, defense, other regulated systems, and it has pretty good compliance mandates. And if we're looking a little bit to the future, which is coming by the end of this quarter, is providing more governance features into your CLI as well. So all of those governance features, they already exist in Tabnine's IDE extension, and we will introduce them into our CLI. Basically, the idea here is to have organization guidelines, meaning your or organizational admin or someone from the platform team, they can set what are the specific guidelines that you want every PR to possess, every agentic flow to possess. So, for example, no row SQL queries. I want to prevent row SQL queries across everywhere, every use of the agent. I can do it by providing a prompt in the organizational guidelines, which we see here right now. Provenance and attribution. This is a really strong capability where we track the source behind those AI suggestions. We have audit trails that that can explain if the code that was generated by the AI violates some sort of a license. So you can, for example, say, if this is a permissive license, yeah, it's okay. We can use code that is based on code bases with permissive license. But if it's a non-permissive license, for example, GPL or something like that, I don't want to add this code into my organization. Maybe I don't want to violate those type of licenses. So having those capabilities in the provenance and attribution, currently it's pretty strong capability that is already exist in our IDE, and once it will be added into the CLI, I think that the amount of use cases that we can think here is very vast. One of the examples, for example, we can add a gatekeeping capability in the CI that will prevent attributed code to get into our code base. So not only during the development, but if a developer, let's say, creates the code manually or copies it from Stack Overflow or copies it from some open source GitHub, the CLI, using the provenance and attribution capabilities, it can gatekeep your code base from getting code which is attributed and licensed with a non-permissive license. In addition, tools and MCP governance. We have here another example. This is the tool governance and the MCP governance. Basically, we can provide you with the capabilities of organizational management on how those tools can be used. We specifically chose a few tools that are, we'll call it destructive. They can cause issues in your organization, like creating files or running shell commands or writing code into those files. And you can make sure that all of the developers, they are not using YOLO mode with those specific tools. Same goes with the MCPs. So if you want to prevent your organization from using specific MCP servers, you can add it. You can. We have an allow list capability of MCP governance. We can allow all MCP, or if, for example, for some reason you want to block all MCP extensibility, you can also do it in this governance feature. So why does it really matter in your organization? Let's bring this all together and explain what it represents in a strategic advantage for your engineering teams. So 3 core reasons here. First, the AI intelligence. We're unbundling the AI from the IDE. It brings the context-aware assistance to every stage of the software development life cycles. This means you'll get consistent context across tools coverage of terminal workflows, CI/CD pipelines, automation scripts, writing the code, and basically it will be a unified developer experience regardless of whether of where this work is happening. Second, the true agentic capabilities. we're moving beyond those passive code completions to active, autonomous agents that actually execute complex tasks, automating repetitive workflows. So the developers that are focused on creating those so the developers will be focused on creating problem-solving items. So we want to reduce the cognitive load on the developers, so they will focus on the real heavy stuff that actually shift the needle in your organization, where all of the more fast and easy areas of the development will be handled by autonomous agents. And third, basically because the AI is moving fast, so new models, they are released every few months. You need a platform that can adapt you without requiring you to re-architect all of the entire system. So model-agnostic architecture that provides you the capability to run your AI on-premise and in air-gapped environments and everywhere else is crucial at the moment. So the bottom line, we're transforming this AI from personal productivity tool to having it as an organizational asset. So it will be scaled along with your engineering. And the more you build with it, the more value you'll get from it. So now back to you, Lee.
Fantastic, Pavel. Thank you so much. Wanted to take a second to address some questions we had in the chat. And let's start, Jim. When can we use Tabnine CLI with headless environments? Right now, we must have a GUI to authenticate Tabnine CLI in our company's Tabnine version.
Sure. So as of version 5.28.2 of Tabnine, we also allow the Tabnine CLI to run with personal access tokens. You can generate personal access token in your admin dashboard. Basically, it's open both for admins and for users of Tabnine. And you can create those personal access tokens and use them in the CLI as an environment variable. It's all documented, and feel free to go to our docs page and find it there. If you need anything, any other assistance, feel free to reach out.
Excellent. So we have a question from Shween. Hope I pronounced that right. So in version cat, no such file or directory. What should I do in next step? Is in local environment, the VS Code extension works well with Tabnine?
I think that this is actually, it means that you have not installed the CLI. Again, follow the instructions in our docs website. I think I'll post it here as well. And install the CLI and things will work. If it's not working, please open a ticket and our support team will reach out.
Great. Also, a follow-up question. Is there anyone here in this session who works in Schwartz digits and can start Tabnine CLI on a managed MacBook?
I think it's let's open a support issue on that and work on that internally.
Excellent, Shween. I see that the CLI is installed, so it's probably something we want to connect with support@tabnine.com. Send them an email with these questions, and they'll be happy to respond. Okay, we have a question from Pradag.
Yeah.
What's your moat versus competitors on the market?
Cool, thanks, Pradag. So I think basically the stronger capabilities that we have here is the organizational context that we have. because Tabnine CLI currently uses our context engine, which connects to all of your repos if you want to, and it understands your code base. It understands how your code flows inside your organization. I believe this is a pretty strong advantage. In addition, we have the governance capabilities, which is not which does not exist in most of the other coding agent tools, where basically you need an admin to change files in your endpoint to be able into your machine, basically, to change different governance capabilities. Here we have a centralized governance server that can actually enforce those capabilities.
Great, great. So last question is a perfect segue into how we wrap up this live event. Is there hands-on demo? Actually, glad you asked.
Yeah. I think we can have hands-on demos. Feel free to reach out, and we will show you a demo by one of our salespersons and our sales engineers.
Yeah, Mir, that's a great question, because I wanted to wrap up the session with next steps. And one is to book a custom demo tailored to your organization. All you need to do is go to tabnine.com, find book a demo, and you'll find that there are multiple ways that we can engage with a custom demo. That is pipeline analysis, make sure that we review your specific CI/CD setups and identify high impact integration points for the CLI. We'll definitely ensure that we do a security deep dive to ensure that we maintain compliance in your architecture. And then ultimately we get to an ROI assessment. So the business case that is created for Tabnine inside of your organization can be personalized to project time savings and productivity gains. And we're more than happy to work with you on that. Just remember, go to tabnine.com, book a demo, and we'll have a salesperson reach out to you same day. Another way, Pavel, if you want to take one step forward, is we have weekly office hours that we do every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So on the website, you'll also find an office hours sign up where you can join your peers in a conversation around Tabnine, and it's an interactive session with deep dives and Q&As in a much smaller group. So it's an open floor. You bring your technical questions and get those answers directly from a product expert. We do demos, the most recent releases demos, so that you can see advanced CLI configurations and integrations in real world scenarios. And then it's very much a peer learning experience where you hear other people's questions and get answers from those that you may not have thought of yourself. So it's a really educational session to connect with other engineering leaders. Martin has one question that just came in. I'll post it here. So is agent mode answer to my question? If there is some possibility which allow Tabnine access full project like Augment Code can, and now when I would like to solve some problem which contains 5 files, I have to manually link it to the console by at something.
So the Tabnine CLI and basically the Tabnine agent, they work with the context engine, which is similar to what Augment has, I think, but we are indexing those huge repos, and we can get all of the information on those repos into your agentic context. Altering the files does not require you to select the specific files that you want to change in the agent mode. We also in Tabnine we have a chat mode, which is a slightly less strong version of AI coding assistant. It does not provide the ability to change files automatically, or does not have the ability to run those commands automatically. So I'm focusing my talk here on the agent mode, and it can choose the files automatically. It understands your code base, it understands the local code, and it understands your remote code, and it can change those files without requiring you to actually select those files by hand or mentioning them in some other way.
Excellent. All right, if there are no other questions, if you want to, drop down. Just a big shout out to everybody. Thank you for the engagement. Thank you for the questions. I hope this answered some things for you and allows you to go back into your organization and evaluate if Tabnine is the right fit for you. Pavel, thank you again for your great presentation. We will post this and share this with you in an email here in an hour or so. But if you have any questions, remember tabnine.com, book a demo, get your custom demo in your organization. So again, thank you. Have a great day. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you.